points. This has been a Mexico that's been pretty lackluster, and they're playing against one of the best Canada teams ever and what could be the U.S. Golden Generation. And well, they're tied with the U.S. and they're only 3 points from Canada. that's
No, I
and
know.
that's Mexico, and
Yeah,
that's Mexico playing bad. I mean, just in perspective,
yeah.
with they're really not.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, so okay, we got so there you go, man. We got the show right there.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cantina MX Football Podcast, episode 328. Mexico is 1 point away from qualifying to Qatar after a few results over the last couple days. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how things are shaping up for Qatar. But before I go any further, let's welcome Joel to the show. Joel, how we doing?
Oh, really good, Jaime. I am doing good, and hopefully, Mex coach Tata, who had to stay at home. Well, not by home I mean Mexico. Didn't travel to Honduras. Seems to be having a problem with his eye. Hopefully he gets better. I know people don't like him, but
Maybe this whole time, that's why he's been calling the wrong kind of players. He's got bad vision. Or
he's in bad
maybe
vision.
or maybe he got slapped by Will Smith.
Snap, snap. He got yeah, yeah. But yeah, doing good, man. There's, we had doble jornada of World Cup qualifying, so I didn't get to see my goats play. They had a friendly, and you were there, right, Jaime?
we yes, sirree. During the break, uh, we had Chivas. They actually played two friendlies, one in Fresno against Pumas. They tied 1-1. They couldn't get the victory there, even though they had scored and they were up 1-0. And then on Saturday in San Jose, after 3 years of planning, of canceling and rescheduling, the fans finally got to see Chivas in San Jose at PayPal Park. And Chivas were actually winning 1-0 thanks to Orozco, one of the young players from the reserves. Unfortunately, the referee called a penalty that was made up right at the buzzer beater, and Leon ended up tying the game. So uh,
Damn.
Chivas continue to draw. But besides that, el ambiente estuvo chido. Had a lot of fun on the sidelines taking photos. And if you guys want to see my work, just go to soccerchronicle.com. I uploaded all the photos there, and yeah, they came out nice.
Also, your Instagram, right, Jaime?
Yeah, on my IG at Eros Imaj, it's EROSEMIAJ. Check it out.
I've been noticing players actually hit you up to at them.
Steven Barreiro from Leon, he said, "Hey man, you got any more photos?" So I had
You had a goalkeeper too, right? What was he like from Panama
JT.
or Salvador?
Actually, I've had a few players hit me up over the last couple of years. I had the Earthquakes goalkeeper. He asked for more photos because I took one of him and Chicharro like bumping shoulders. And
All
then
right,
I've had a few. I had like Chino Huerta give me a shout out, and yeah, it's nice. Becky
nice,
G.
nice. Oh damn, you.
Yeah, I took a few photos of
Dang.
Becky G when Mexico had a friendly in LA against Nigeria. She was one of the celebrities there, and I took her photo, and she ended up liking the photo when I tagged her. So I got a lot of Becky G fans now following me. I don't know what they expect me.
It's more candid pictures.
And funny thing is, in the Nations League final, she was actually there, but she was wearing like black, and she didn't want to be like caught because she's dating the one of the U.S. Players, unfortunately. So
All right, all
I
right.
saw her. I'm like, Becky, and she's like, no, 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 don't take my photo. I don't want to like people to see me. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was pretty
Too
cool.
late, snap, snap.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, got you, bitch.
So we had The game of the week, USA Mexico and El Azteca Thursday night. This wasn't at 3 p.m. This wasn't at noon when it could be a field advantage. No, it was at nighttime when it was a little bit cooler. Everybody's at home watching the game. There was sold out, I think 40,000 fans. And if it wasn't for Ochoa, we would have lost that game. Game ends up 0-0, and USA got a very, very valuable draw on the road.
Well, Jaime, there was two questionable. Could have been PKs, I'm gonna say. And I was watching the game. I was watching. I had to see it through my phone, through the through the Facebook, where it's like share the link so that we could keep the stream up. I don't know if you ever seen it through these
I haven't.
page people
No.
that stream it. Oh, it's pretty bad. But I didn't see them go to the bar.
No, they didn't.
And so that's a bit surprising because I mean I would be fighting for that, but there was two
Questionable.
that
Yeah.
yeah, and I would really make a stink out of it. So I'm gonna guess if the Mex team wasn't protesting it highly, that you know, because and I remember I don't know if it was the qualifier this or a previous one, but I remember something similar where there was like two plays that could have been penalty and they never even they weren't called, and so that's just that's just how the game goes sometimes. But now with bar, you could definitely push you know to have those plays reviewed.
Yeah, there was like one or two fouls that I felt could have been worthy of a penalty call or at least like a VAR, but they didn't. And then Alexis Vega had the ball in the box and he dove. It was a quite obvious dive. He got a yellow card and he had to sit out the next game against Honduras. So it was really just unfortunate. But the reality is that Mexico has only scored like maybe one or two goals in these last couple qualifying matches. Against Costa Rica, it was 0-0, a 1-0 over Panama, 0-0 against USA, and then you end up getting a pretty clutch goal against Honduras on the road. But I mean, the reality is, Mexico is really struggling up top. Chucky Lozano, Tecatito, and Raul Jimenez. Maybe they also have to check their prescription because they just have not been on point. They have been just terrible up top, and I'm pretty much over it right now.
Yeah, that has been disappointing for Mexico. The attack definitely it's left a lot to be desired, and they haven't seemed very dangerous because um, overall the team hasn't been as bad as it gets made out to be. I know there's a lot of people disappointed and they're not content with a lot of things, but if we're to look at uh, just Mexico's record, it's not really bad, and it has some positives. Uh, they're actually the team at the hexagonal that's won the most games on the road, and that's been something that's could help them down the line.
Octagonal, I guess, because there's
Yeah,
eight
there you
teams.
go. Yeah, there you go.
Really, really quickly though, it feels like that meme where the guy's drowning, and then you zoom out, and he's really not drowning. He's just like it looks like he's drowning, but he's not.
Oh,
He's doing
he's
fine.
he's yeah, it's really shallow water, and he's like he's yeah, he's crouching. It is in the aspect like overall because I mean I've seen Mex teams that were just really bad, like horrendous, where the team would get played out of the field. Uh, this team's not as bad. It's just not dominant, and we have this whole Euro. We bought into the Euro meme that we have these players in Europe that they're like power levels over 9,000. We expect you know we we expect them to be like, and I get it because we see EPL and we see Raul Jimenez and he's he's scoring these golazos, and you're like, man, he's scoring against these top teams, against elite players. So down here, he should, piece of, taking candy from a baby should be a piece of cake. And then it's the opposite, this guy can't even, he doesn't even look like EPL material. He looks like he would struggle at a championship team. And so yeah, it boggles the mind, and usually we just, one of the first is the coach. He doesn't know what he's doing. Um, and that's, but I do think, and I'm not saying Tata's not to blame, but I'm just saying the Amex attack has been pretty bad, man. Not sure what's going on exactly with the team there. It just seemed pretty cursed. But yeah, it's been the the productivity level has been low to the point where you have Mex fans asking for Chicharo, which they sort of contradict themselves when they say
Of course.
MLS is the retirement league and he already hung up the boots, but here they are like, hey, save us, Chicha, and it's like, well, which is it, Um,
I don't know if
but
that's
but
the same fan saying both things, but I do hear both of those statements. I mean, I've
yeah,
I've I've said it myself, if you go to MLS, you hand in your Mexican national team card, but right now beggars can't be choosers. We need goals, and
yes.
all I'm gonna say about this is, would you rather have Chicharito playing Warzone or helping you off the bench in a World Cup
I
match? And that's just
I
how I
know
feel about it. It's like I'd much rather call him off the bench instead of watching him play Warzone. Like we could definitely use him.
I know Chiquis would prefer to see him playing Warzone, but we, I would no. I always been a big Chicha fan, and I do feel that he's probably paid for his sins. I think I don't know if he's going off. The rumors probably just go apologize to who is it? Damn, what's that directivo name?
Oh, Lisa? Juan de Lisa?
Yeah, John De
John de
Luisa.
Lisa?
Yeah, um, yeah, man, just send them a fruit basket or something with an apology. But yeah, I do think Chicha's needed. I mean, he's worth a look because I do remember going into what was it, 2014, and that dude was sucking balls, man.
Oh
He
yeah.
he couldn't score for shit. Um, he's over there celebrating U.S. goals. So it's it's let's not think. A lot of times we will remember the good times. We'll be like, oh yeah, he scored this many goals, and then we forget. Um, but he is going through a good moment, though. That says a lot because he's been scoring some pretty good goals right now with the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point something really quick on that game, uh, on the U.S. Mex game, because we saw something that to me starts like, I like to say the whole being in Europe thing, because Pulisic got shut down.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna mention that Jorge
Ah,
Sanchez
yes.
had him in his back pocket the whole game. Here's here's Captain America, the best winger in CONCACAF, as some people like to say, because he plays for Chelsea. And this dude cannot get past a player that's pretty much average in Liga MX.
He is in America, right? Isn't he from their youth?
What's that?
I'm not sure. He's from America, isn't he? Like, was he from their youth system?
He played for Santos 2016 to
Oh,
2018. Then he went to America. But
all right. So, man, Santos. All right.
and America fans will admit it. They'll be the first ones to admit it. Like, yeah, dude, this guy's not even like that good. He's very inconsistent. But sometimes you
But
have a
not that
sometimes.
good, and he's in the selección.
Yeah.
I don't. Algo no cuadra, Jaime. You don't get to the selección if you're not that good.
No, they're
Uh,
not they're not trying to say like, oh, he's not good. I was just saying he's inconsistent, like meaning he'll have a good game, but then he'll have three bad ones. So yeah.
Yeah, all right. I see
Yeah,
what you mean.
but obviously the talent, the skill levels there. I mean, he shut him down, and of course, like America, USA fans were celebrating that little uh, Maradona run by Reina that
It was
resulted in absolutely nothing.
it was because they rarely see their players do runs like that, and they asked Reina on the what was it, post match presser. They asked him about it, and he just left it off. He's like, it led to nowhere. Like, why are you asking me? You know, that's kind of like his sentiment. Why are you asking me this?
Yeah,
It was a nice run, but it
it's
didn't go
it's
anywhere.
it's good for the Twitter likes and the Instagram likes, and the American fans will love to like look at the time that Gio Reyna did the samba on Mexico, and kind of reminds me of that time. What's his name? Vanilla Medina did that against Brazil in a friendly. He did that little shake and bake move, and everybody since then was just like, "Oh yeah, that was the one time." Like, dude, it didn't result in anything. He probably crossed the ball and
No,
went
he
into the
didn't.
stands or
He
something.
he didn't, but he had been having a good game,
Yeah.
and he was about 17 or 18, and he was just schooling the guy. I forgot who was the player, um, and it got to the point where Ronaldinho came and hacked Medina, dude. He came in to kick him in the ankles.
I mean, for
He,
me, I got on my feet when I saw that live. I thought that was like amazing, but I feel like what Gio Reyna did. It was interesting to watch, and
no, and
Ache, man, Ache, the guy who's been playing Champions League, who's plays for Atletico Madrid, who's having a great time over there, and he just got schooled twice in that play. It's just like, dude, what happens when you put on the Mexico jersey? You just turn into like what happened, bro?
and it's something I like to talk about. It just goes to show, man. A lot of times, just because you're playing over there doesn't mean that this region that it's that it sucks. And we see it a lot with some of these players that come to MLS and they have a hard time, and they'll talk about, when we read some of the interviews, they'll talk about how it was more difficult than they expected. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to point some stuff out because we got some fun stats much later to talk about Jaime, and I'm gonna link him up.
Oh, cool. Yeah, what I think is interesting is for like perspective is everything. We're looking at a Canadian team that is qualified to the World Cup for the first time in 36 years, and they basically almost went undefeated. They got their first loss, or not their first loss. Who they lose to? I forgot who Canada lost
Yeah,
to.
I do think that is their first defeat.
Yeah, they got their
Uh,
first loss to. Dang, I had it and it's gone. They lost
is it
to.
Panama?
Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Where'd they go? Because they beat Jamaica, but they lost to. Where are they? Costa Rica.
Oh, Costa Rica. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about this team that was up until that point undefeated, and for them to have the great World Cup qualifying run that they've had, Mexico's only 3 points behind them. And with USA too, everyone's like, "Oh, look at this USA team; they're doing so well," and we're tied on points with them. So it's like, is Mexico really doing that bad? Because they have 25 points, they're in third place, and they have the best away record, like you mentioned earlier. They have the best away record.
Yeah, it's yeah. I know it's happened, man. I've seen it with Bora where he had a decent, pretty good qualifying campaign, and the media did the whole thing on him where they made it seem like that Mexico sucked, and ended up they fired him after he qualified the team. And it's kind of the same, although it's a bit. I guess the host not being able to score is makes it, you know, more believable, which I do think it's a problem. Um, but that's not to say it can't be solved. Um, but I do think it's been exaggerated, and of course, because the team doesn't look as good as we all expected that it should look. But and we were talking about this before the pod, Jaime. Um, Qualifiers never really reflects what's going to happen uh, at the World Cup, and Costa Rica is a good example going into the Brazil World Cup 2014. No one expected them to do what they did. You know, in Mex was opposite. Mex struggled to get into the World Cup. Everyone expected them to bow out of the first round, especially they were going to open against Brazil in the World Cup. Three games. If you lose the first one, you're basically, I don't know what's the stat, like 80% odds that you're gonna not make it past the first round. Um, so I think that's one thing, one problem there, where as fans have, they equate qualifiers to the World Cup. They'll say, oh, because the team is playing this bad, or they're having problems here. Once they get there, it's gonna be worse.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. That man, that was a scary. That was dark times for Mexico. USA had 22 points. Costa Rica had 18. Honduras had 15, and Mexico got in on 11 points. And they
11,
11
dude.
points,
That's
bro, in
that's what
10
11 less
games.
than. That's 11. Right? They were 11 points behind first place.
Yeah, and they
I
made it
mean,
to the World Cup, and I ended up having a decent showing. That is
no,
crazy.
I would say it was a good showing because they tied Brazil, which were the hosts, and that's to tie a team like Brazil, the most winning team in World Cup, or with the most World Cups. I'm not sure if they're the most winning. It could be Germany, but I mean they definitely have the most World Cups. To tie them, to beat Croatia, who has you know they had just a really talented squad, and then defeat Cameroon with Eto'o was there, and just because Mex traditionally struggles with against African teams, so those were great games, and then the way they played, the way they played Holland, and it was a game that even Van Gaal said later after the match how that water break benefited them because he was able to make adjustments.
Yeah, he changed the game plan and it worked.
Yeah, man, that's where it's, it. Yeah, that's where it sucked. And I think, well, who was it? Was it Tecatito? He was on the pod, and he was talking about, I think, that match too, and saying how it kind of showed some experience lacking in someone like Piojo, and how they were given more than one cycle at the World Cup. When they're up at bat again in these big games, they're better prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Which
sure.
which I do agree, even though the one reference we have is not, which will be Aguirre, because he was twice, but he wasn't twice in a row.
Yeah, we're talking about 8 years apart.
It was, yeah, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I'll be honest, like I think we have been over dramatic and we've been piling on Mexico for what seems like a bad run right now. But, once you look at the stats, you look at the numbers, like, you know, we're going to qualify to the World Cup, and that's just the name of the game. Now, what's interesting is even on the last game of the season, there's no guarantee that we go in directly. Costa Rica could potentially beat USA, and that would tie them with us on points. And Mexico could have an Aztecaso and lose to El Salvador at home. And depending on how many goals they concede, Mexico could be looking at another one of those playoff to qualify. But that's like worst case scenario.
Yeah, I don't see no Aztecaso here.
If anything,
No
I do
offense
see
to the
Mexico.
Salvadorian.
I do see Mexico winning El Salvador, and then USA potentially having trouble against Costa Rica because it is on the road, and Costa Rica has the incentive to win.
Oh yeah, for them it is.
Yeah,
It's the do or die game, and they already beat Canada, right? The
yeah.
best team in
There are.
the
I mean,
tournament.
they're already like it's between USA, Mexico, and Costa Rica. Those are the last you know countries fighting for a spot.
So you think US could end up in repechaje? You're
No,
saying?
because they scored too many goals. Yeah,
Against Honduras, Fold Bentanilla. You
man.
know, man, I'm hot take, dude. I think these Central American teams they do this shit on purpose, dude. And I could, hey, I'm gonna say it. I no, I
It
already
was
said
it
it.
was Panama. It was
I
Panama. Panama.
it was
Who
Panama.
who had everything going in their favor? They could have still made it to
I
the
have to
World Cup.
take it back. I thought it was Honduras, man.
No, it was
Cause
Panama.
I'm going back to that Guatemala game, man. That Olympic qualifying at Carson, and they lose to Canada, and they seem like they just bent over and spread the cheeks, and they lost, and the fans were cheering for more goals, dude. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? You don't cheer against your own team, dude. That's like that's like cheering for your mom in a gangbang. You don't want to. They kept saying more goals, dude. I was like, what the fuck? And that's when Mex plays Trinidad. They needed to score like 6 goals, and they only scored like five, I think. And that ended up, costing them, uh, you know, not being able to go into the next round. But some of these teams have done that. But if it was Panama, I take it back. I don't. I think there's more rivalry between like Honduras, Guate, Costa Rica. Uh, Panama's pretty new to this. It's kind of sad you know, how they broke down like that because there's just a team that, in the last cycles, they've been one of the more competitive, stronger sides.
Yeah, I mean they made it to the last World Cup for the first time, right? 2018 was the first time Panama qualified, and it
Yeah,
was
and 14 they were a point away. They
yeah,
were they were right at the
and
edge, man. They were seconds, dude. They were like a minute or seconds away, and that's when they made that rookie mistake because they kept attacking. They kept trying to score that second goal when all they needed to do was enfriar el partido, um, and and that's when that Susi scores that
yeah,
goal.
and it felt like, especially in the beginning of qualifiers, that it was actually Costa Rica who was gonna miss out. But they climbed back, I think, in the second half of this, and they were able to now. I mean, I don't know who the playoff is against. I wonder if it's gonna be against like New Zealand, but if it is, I mean, they're basically in.
Yeah,
But
man, that's
you have a stat about what Mexico potentially getting seeded?
yes, sir. Do you have the Wait, no, here it is. Okay, it's not a stat. It's sort of like things that need to happen, and because and we need to mention something. Italy, I think that was part of it. Uh, Although I don't know where they were ranked, but Italy was knocked out of the World Cup, so I'm
Ooh,
not sure
too soon, bro.
which is their second. They're missing the second World Cup. Um, which damn, which we need to keep this in mind because they're doing something that Mex is doing, and I think this is one of the reasons why Mexico is struggling, and Chivas as well, because Chivas depends on Mexican players. Uh, but here it is: if Portugal loses against Macedonia, who knocked out
Italy.
Italy, and Holland does not beat Germany, they're playing a friendly, and Mexico has to beat El Salvador. Then Mexico would, I think it's the last seed that's available.
Uh,
Mexico will be seeded, and I think a big part of that was the games they won on the road during World Cup qualifying because they're worth way more points.
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. Mexico's winning away games. 8 years from now, when they're qualifying and they can't win on the road, it's gonna be like, hey, bring back Tata. We always go in circles.
It's
Uh,
weird because it's
but
like
yeah,
they had a great road record, but at home they were abysmal. 3 wins, 3 draws. So
and I do. We've been saying it, man. We do have to blame the Federacion because they did take away, Mexico's home field advantage, and Landon Donovan was talking about it because he went to the game and he was saying how he didn't recognize it, and this is a guy that got to play against Max many times, and he's like, I didn't recognize Azteca, and he's like how they were playing music, they were playing all this like English music and stuff like that. Just they, they felt like they were at home, the U.S. players. But it's for him to say that he can't feel the ambience because you had that before. It was like a midday, and he talked about the smog too. I'm not sure if that affects um, if it's midday, the high heat, and then the smog. I guess it all combines, and it's like, dude, it's at night. He's like, it was like playing in like being in Cali. And so I mean that's a big part of it, and these other teams all do it, like teams like Honduras and whatnot. They'll take you to where the weather's gonna be,
they
it's
won't
gonna
they
favor
won't
them.
mow the lawn.
Yeah, no, it's true. It sounds, but it's true, and that's something that even some teams in Liga MX used to do.
Wasn't Guardado complain about that?
He said, I don't know why they're complaining, dude, and he at the Azteca pitch that it was not as, I don't know, man. I'm like, and but I mean, I don't. And then what was the other one? We see the U.S. playing in the winter. They like to play when it's snowing and shit. Though, what was the whole thing with the freezing? One of the play, what they played? Was it Costa Rica?
They played Honduras and two of their players got hypothermia.
There you go. And one, yeah, and then, but then they're saying one of the U.S. players they suffered like something on their foot, like
Oh, they've been keeping it under wraps, but the goalie got like he hasn't been in action. He's been like out injured and they won't admit.
his foot's.
Yeah.
Did you see Mr. Deeds? Did you ever
Yeah.
see?
Yeah.
He has a black foot. You step on him, he doesn't feel
Yeah.
shit.
But
Uh,
yeah, they won't admit that it was due to that match, but they're saying that is basically what happened.
well, yeah, dude, goalies move the least. He was probably standing for big periods of time. My wasn't getting the blood flowing, but I mean, all of those things count, and FMF moves the games so that we could see them over here at prime time, man, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And it's like I do think it's been hurting the team. So it's like, okay, if you're gonna do the horario because it's more money in the coffers because of TV and sponsors, well then take the game to Monterrey, take it to Guadalajara, take it
Yeah.
where you're gonna have support and even the players because all these Euro-based players they suffer the same with and we
Altitude.
saw it right, Jaime. We were talking about it,
Oh yeah,
how they looked gassed.
minute 70 against that USA game in El Azteca, you could just see it. You saw Herrera, you saw all the Euros just like gasping for air, and the game really slowed down after the 70th minute. It was just you could tell the pace. It was That was when Reina did his little thing because everybody was just tired. They're like, "Ah, dude, just go, man. I'm tired." But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I do miss having those games at like noon or 3 p.m. and you could see that it was just a different environment. But whatever the case may be, maybe it's because they now have NFL games at El Azteca and all this stuff. They're probably just catering to the American audience.
No, and they are, man. They are. That's been one thing with the Mex team that
They pay their bills,
it's
right?
become.
Te dan de comer. What was that chant?
Yeah, Estados Unidos. No, yeah, Estados Unidos está de comer, but that was like a negative chant. That's against the fans, like saying you come to work here.
Oh,
Um, no, Mex. It's like a brand, you know. It's like a brand. It's a soccer brand, and it sells a lot in the U.S. It's the highest rated. You know, Mexican soccer is the when we talk about soccer in the U.S. it's the highest rated, uh, except for I think the U.S. women, but U.S. women only in World Cup. I think only when they're at the World Cup they get really high ratings. Other than that, they sort of like fizzle out.
yeah.
But just on the average games, yeah, man, Mexico national team and Chivas America games, they're the highest. If you look at TV ratings, football TV ratings, and they will outdraw Champions League and EPL and La Liga and whatnot.
So with these results and Mexico trying to squeeze in, potentially seeded, um, you mentioned you brought up Italy and it, it's pretty bad. I was reading something that like their best players will not be able to like play in the World Cup or play like yeah, like in the World Cup, man. Like 2006 was like the last knockout game they were in because in 2010 and 2014 they didn't get out of the group stage and then they didn't qualify for 2018 or in 2022. At the same time, they did win the Euro, which is weird. They beat England at home in penalties. And it's just like
Yeah,
something doesn't add up, man. Like, how do you go win the Euros and then miss out on the World Cup? That doesn't make sense.
algo no cuadra.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean sometimes you get overconfident. I think, but I think with the Euros, I guess they won this a lot of times like you'll have teams that are like they'll play with like younger squads because they're like building them up for the World Cup, and that could be one of the things there where it's like, okay, we're gonna send, we're not sending our what could be the best possible team because we need some of these guys to get more experience, and that could be one of the things there that played to their favor, Um,
well,
but I mean,
with Italy, I mean, a lot of their players are pretty old.
they always had they've always had like pretty older squad. I mean, they took Rafa Marquez at what 35. You
Yeah, he's
know,
pretty old.
he was playing first division and he played like 2 years. I was like, damn. So I mean they have Ibrahimovic, who's about 40. Pupi Zanetti at Inter, he played, so he was like 42, I think. Um, and then Maldini was up there in age. I know Buffon. I don't know if he's still there, but so yeah, they've always, they're not against age. So I mean, I could probably still go and play Serie A. I could, I could, I could. No, but I think Italy, a lot of things, man. There's been corruption. With a lot of their teams have gone bankrupt. I don't know if you remember a few years back, um, they had to sell Parma, and it was like they were trying to sell it for $1.
What?
I mean, but look, it's like okay, so you think $1, but then if you buy it, it's probably in the red, and so it'll be like all these millions to pay off all these debts.
Right.
So I guess they were looking for investors, and they were saying, "Oh, well, $1." uh, yeah, so we've seen teams like that that have sort of fallen on the wayside. Milan, right? Milan, it's Berlusconi. He had to sell like a big percentage of the team to some Chinese investor, and big reason that all of a sudden we saw Juventus just they kind of dominated for what 10 years. I think they've been the only team winning,
Uh huh.
and that's because they have the strongest company backing them,
Yeah.
and so that's been one of the things that's been hurting the league, where it's like there's no money to invest in the clubs, and the other thing has been youth development. Their league is one of the worst in giving youth players playing time.
Yeah, you have a stat that you just put on the chart here. It's lowest percentage of minutes by under 21 players, and Serie A is in ninth, and Liga MX is in 10th.
Yeah, yeah, we're sort of following in their footsteps because I mean we're seeing a lot of the same things in Liga MX, right? We saw teams like Lobos Bua fold. They couldn't even get a TV contract, so they had to sell the team or the franchise, which became who did it become? Mazatlan? I don't know who it became. Someone. Um, we saw what was it? Chiapas? What was it? Jose Jaguares? No, Veracruz, who hadn't paid players, right?
Yeah.
They had like they were owed like a year's worth of wages or something. I mean, Chiapas disappeared. I don't know if you've seen pictures of the stadium. It looks abandoned. It looks like like zombie movie,
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic, just all abandoned, weeds growing. Um, and there's a lot of teams like that that like just sort of like folded and disappeared, or they owed money. They had to sell the franchise. They had to move it. Necaxa has been sold a few times now. They just have recent new owners. Same Atletico had to be, has just recently got owners. Um, Azteca got rid of Morelia. Wait, yeah, they got rid of Morelia and they sold off a big chunk of Atlas, right? Pretty much owned by Grupo Orlegui. Um,
And the latest
and
victim,
so on.
Querétaro, they're gonna have to sell the team within a year.
They're gonna they're gonna have to sell it. Um, so I mean, that's top to bottom. That's it shows that there's not that many investors in Mexico willing to buy teams and whatnot. Because yeah, like we said, Necaxa and Atleti have foreign investors. When didn't Atletico Madrid pull out?
I don't know if they're
Did
still
they
affiliated anymore.
leave? Well, but I mean, still they're foreign, so that's one of the things that we've been seeing. Now there was a rumor that America might, but that could just be a rumor. I don't. Did you hear about it? It was like on
Uh,
Twitter. I don't know. That was just
I know at one point
that
Televisa
they
owned San Luis and America, right?
and Necaxa.
Yeah, Necaxa.
Yeah, they own three and close ties with Atlante, and they were getting the media was attacking them. Same media that now praises Grupo Pachuca and Grupo Orlegui. So it's always been, there's always been this push against Televisa because they have control of FMF of the national team, but it's ending soon. I don't know if it ends after this World Cup or next, and
What?
then there will be a shakeup. They have the rights for the national team. They own the television rights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they own the television rights, and you've had a big push from a couple owners. They've been trying to wrestle it away from them, and they've been unsuccessful. They came pretty close, but Televisa, man, they pulled some dirty punches, and they everyone bent the knee, and they just this it was like 8 years. So I don't know if it's been four, but um, we will see some type of shakeup. Um, Possibly, Jaime, possibly we could finally see like a league TV contract, you know?
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that would benefit them, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there, man. But going back to teams lacking money, the clubs. You also the other thing we've noticed was lack of youth in Liga MX because obviously they said okay now it could be you know they took away the limit on foreigners. It used to be 4 and 5 players, and now it's like you could have like 10 on the field. So obviously that meant that foreigners doubled and Mexican talent got cut in half. And we're seeing it with Chivas. Well, we've been seeing it for years now, how much they've struggled to buy players, and when that's a big reason. And I do think it's kind of now it's to me it's reflecting now with the national team. They're beginning to have some of these same problems as Chivas, where it's like the pool of Mexican talent, it's not that deep as it should be. There should be way more strikers, you know,
Yeah, I
like
agree.
trying to, I remember when there was what? There was Pelaez, there was Luis Garcia, there was Hermosillo, Saguinho, uh, Luis Hernandez. You had all these strikers, dude. They were at one point, they were all there, like just trying to. I mean, Luis Hernandez didn't even, for that reason, didn't even get a shot till he was like 25, going into 26. You know,
And back then, what it was it because Liga MX teams could only field what, four foreigners at a time?
exactly. Yeah, 4 and 5. I think the FA.
Four,
I don't
and
know if
then
in the FA was less or
Na-
more, but it was.
Naturalizado or something like that was like,
Yeah, it was everywhere else. You could feel like 4 or 5, and then Mexico City had like a little bit different rule. And but yeah, I mean, you had the squads had just more Mexican players all around. So a team like Chivas, they had more to pick and choose from. Now it's like no, it's one reason I was been saying you do need ultimately because there's not that money coming in. You do need to see Liga MX link up with MLS in some type of tournament, and then for that tournament to do good, because if it does good TV ratings is money. That's it. It changes the game. There's more money to for the teams to do more, invest in youth or buy better players, whatever. But ultimately, you need money.
yes, sir. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So sometimes you got you got to join forces with the MLS. We'll see what happens with
Yeah,
that one tournament that they're trying to do, and then the World Cup and all of that. It's all going to be Canada and Mexico and USA. It's going to be like the what kind of like superhero team is that? It's like the Justice League or something. I don't know. I don't really
the Justice League.
Power Rangers unite. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it
Well,
does seem like Canada and USA are taking their development serious now.
yeah, when there's this big push, there's this big push to try to make soccer more popular. I mean, US is going to host their second World Cup. They just hosted in '94. So it's hasn't been that long, and for them to land it again, they obviously been putting in a lot of work. And to land the World Cup, you do have to put a lot of work, a lot of campaigning, a lot of like buying boats and whatnot. Or I shouldn't say buying because that was the crooked way. Winning boats, winning boats over, going to confederaciones and convincing them why you should be the one hosting. Could take a long time, and it's a lot of money you have to invest. And they have been they're doing the opposite. Mex While Mex is folding teams because they can't afford to be in Primera. MLS is expanding there. They went from what they were like 8 teams when they started, and I think they want to be at 30. I don't know if they're at like 24 or something right now. Just and it's countries big enough where they can pull that off. You know what I'm saying? It's some Scarface shit. When he's standing here and he's looking at the blimp. And that's sort of like it should be for Mex, where it's like, dude, they're kind of mining for gold over there, and you're over here just trying to clown. And if they do strike it, you're gonna be with your hand in your dick because you had all these. You're too busy looking at fucking Europe and or Copa Libertadores when you had some stuff right here. They were almost handing it to you, and you didn't want to take it, which is what could happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but it is a possibility. So I think that's why, and I mean, and like we just said it not too long ago, the ratings, right, in Mexico is king right now. That's why it's like they need to take advantage of that, and if they could make it pop, where it's like a you know, three-way rivalry in football, because like Canada, U.S., they're linked up like in what basketball and hockey, right?
Baseball
And now
too.
MLS. Baseball, oh, that's right. So, I mean, they've always kind of had that, but now you throw in Mex, you throw them in there, and yeah, we could be looking at a pretty sweet league. And I'm not saying it's going to be a league that's going to replace Liga Mex. I mean, league like in Champions League, where
Which
it's like
we
more like
kind of
a
have
tournament.
already, but obviously it's been one-sided for about 20 years now.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what can make it happen because Champions League was the same for many years. It was like started off of a magazine, El Equipe. They came up with a tournament, and it was like an invitational. We have to wonder how many teams took it serious. I know Real Madrid did, which is why they're sitting on so many trophies. They won quite a few back when, and now it's this huge tournament. It's like the most prestigious one, and it started from a magazine invitational.
It would be nice to see the entire, not just like the MLS Cup winners and the League MX Cup winners. I would be curious to see how the rest of the league would do. But I just think the logistics of it's kind of complicated because United States is a huge country and the traveling is would be a pain.
Yeah,
But I mean, down the road, I think that could happen. We'll see. But yeah, we
yeah,
have
and I mean they've been trying. I mean, Jaime, they've been trying. This league. It's like the Matrix. they, it's like it's been destroyed and they restarted. Remember, you don't see Matrix.
uh it's been a while.
Oh man, dude, Neo he gets to the architect and he's like, dude, this is like our sixth time doing this shit, and that's sort of been with Liga MX and MLS. They've been trying, Superliga. I don't know the names of it. I'm forgetting, but they've been trying these tourneys for so
Yeah.
long.
Superliga, and then now it's called the Leagues Cup. And you have obviously the Conca Champions League, which is it's going to be between a Mexican and an MLS team in the final. We'll see what happens. But we have one last game, and pretty much we'll have everybody qualified for the World Cup except for maybe one or two spots. I know the European teams play tomorrow. Portugal and Macedonia. I don't think Ronaldo's gonna allow Portugal to lose, man. Ain't no way he's gonna miss out on a World Cup. His last World Cup.
You mean CR7?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, dude's a beast. So let's see how he bows out of the main tournament. Um, Cristiano, man, I think Yeah, I think he's gonna get it unless Macedonia turns out to be like you know way stronger than we are giving them credit for. Giant killers. Um, but so Mexico plays El Salvador, Jaime. I
Oh,
think they need a big win. I think even if they have a big win, I don't think it's gonna convince. I think a lot of the majority of fans are already like, they already have the pitchforks and the torchlights, and they already want to crucify Tata. They want him out, and I can see why. At that point, it'll be Piojo's turn back. You know, Piojo back in the hot seat.
uh, yeah, with El Salvador, we'll see. We'll see what kind of. I think just for morale issues and for just trying to bring some kind of excitement to Qatar. Like Mexico needs to score a lot of goals. They need to go off on this one. They got to do what USA did yesterday, and that was like score like like 5 goals. I think if Mexico were to do something like that, I think it would put everybody back on the hype train, and they'd probably sell out the Moleros this summer. So I think Mexico tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but on Wednesday, need to have like a big bang against El Salvador. Um, because can you imagine tying again, or even worse, losing? Like that would be interesting. I'm pretty sure
Well,
they
even
wouldn't let Tata alive, like out of the stadium.
yeah, even if it's like a 2-0 win, it's gonna have to be like 3 goals and above and really convincing.
Yeah.
But I think because El Salvador's been asked for this tournament, it's not gonna convince. No matter what they do, I don't think they're gonna convince. Um,
Oh,
they're gonna convince the fans.
just check the chat. Alex Glova. Oh, sorry, Alexa Glova says, "What do you guys think of Liga MX having the closed system with no promotion or relegation?" Um,
Well, they sort of have it right now.
they
They sort
said,
of
uh,
been.
they said, "What do you think about doing that? Sharing the profits with teams like they do with the leagues in the U.S. and
That's
Canada."
that's what they're trying to do. That is what they've been trying to do. And before they took away the relegation for limited time, quotations, limited time, um, you had Enrique Bonilla, who was a president. I don't know if he still is, but he was a president of Liga MX, and he had traveled to the U.S. to kind of see how the MLS, how their system worked. And a big reason for that, for getting rid of promotion relegation, is for the investors. Because if you're a company,
Right.
these are the investors for the most part are companies, right? Uh, Chivas is OmniLife, Monterrey is FEMSA, Tigres es Cemex, Cruz Azul, Cemento Cruz Azul, so on and so forth. Um, Tijuana is Grupo Caliente, which is the betting house. So it's all companies. They own companies that own the teams. So there's other companies like Comex, Bimbo. There's other pretty big companies in Mex, but they haven't been wanting to invest, and that's part of it because for the most part you're just going to lose money. That's just soccer. You're in the red. Not too long ago we were. Uh, they filtered out the Barcelona and how much money they owed.
Hmm.
You know, I mean Barcelona, dude, popular worldwide, and they're like penny pinching. Real Madrid as well. They've had to, they're like on loan after loan after loan. You look at the EPL clubs, the biggest clubs. They're all owned by foreign investors. They're not even owned by the original owners. And so that's just how it is with soccer. Is like owning a soccer team is like having a really expensive hobby. You're just gonna be putting money. You're not really gonna get as many in return. And so that's when they a lot of fans they don't understand that when there's still the whole romantic thing about the promotion relegation of years old, man. and that just doesn't work like that anymore. But that's the guarantee. If you have, if you're an investor and you come in and then they're gonna say, well, there's no relegation, then you don't have to worry that you invested X amount of money and then next year your team is in second division and it just devalued and it just went like a Bitcoin or what was it? Uh, Jaime, help me out here.
What?
When one moment when they're investing on some of these stocks, one moment it's worth so much and the next it's like
Yeah.
it's and that's kind of how it would be if you invested 20, 30 million and next season you're in second division. It's like, well, it's gone now, it's not worth that much. um, and so that's the guarantee they want to, that's why they're doing it. And as far as like promotion relegation, that hasn't been a real thing in Mexico for years. um, they kind of got rid of it by doing the tabla de porcentaje. That's kind of a cheat because the you know, OG promo relegation is at the end of the season. If you suck at the end of the season, you're late, right? And some leagues is two or three teams that are like, they will get relegated. Mex had just like one, I think, and then but then they do this whole percentage chart, so you get to suck for like 4 or 5 years in a row, which is like that's enough time to build up and not be last place again. And that system ended up sort of affecting the small teams that come up because then they don't, I guess it's because, we really haven't seen the small teams that went up and then were able to stay.
Yeah.
Um, Aside from Pachuca, and then Pachuca ended up having like this money from the government. There was this thing going on there where the government Pachuca just hooked up, gave all these grants and tax exemptions and all this. It's a whole thing going on there, man. He was pretty corrupt, which was what Televisa was getting exposed, right? When the whole TV contract thing was an issue. They're like, hey, man, we got we got these documents here. We got this footage. And Pachuca was like, you know what? Fuck that TV shit. I didn't even want it anyways. You could have it. They bounced. Um, but that's what it is. It's just this. It's for investors. I don't really care for the promotion relegation. It hasn't been real for a long time.
It's just not
And Liga
sustainable.
MX, but it hasn't been real. Like
Yeah.
what was that team recently came up in first? Didn't even come up through because they won it. They just bought the
Juarez.
franchise. Yeah, Juarez. They didn't
Yeah.
even win their spot. They just bought the team. Then we had at one point, I forgot which year, you had two Veracruz teams playing, right? Because they had gotten relegated.
Mhm.
So they had one playing in second division, and then there was the team that had been promoted got bought out, and there was two Veracruzes, and it's like, well, which one do you cheer for?
Yeah. Yeah. What happened
So yeah,
with Juarez is like you mentioned, Lobos Buap, they struggled. So Juarez just bought their spot. And what I think, to answer Alexa's question, I think that Liga MX should go back to at least 20 teams. I think 20 was a good spot, good number. And I think that there's two teams in Liga de Expansión that could, yeah, be competing in Liga
oh, there's a
MX.
few, but then Jaime, the thing is like, do they have money to field a competitive enough team? That's been the thing because um, some of these clubs that have come up, they just haven't been able to do it.
Well, I think
So
like what was the team that like won, but they didn't meet the qualifications to get promoted because they didn't have enough attendance. It was like they needed to have like
was it Zacatepec? I think.
I think it was
Well, you need the stadium to
Cafetaleros or
be.
something, or yeah, it had to be a stadium with like 20,000 or more. Yeah, so it's like it's one of those things where I think if like the team fits the criteria, like Leones Negros, they play in El Jalisco. that wouldn't be a problem. Mineros de Zacatecas, they're in third position right now. I think they have enough seats, but then you have other teams that are like very very small and like yeah, you there's no way they could last in Liga MX like the top league. But I mean, if you look at like Atletico San Luis and you look at like Juarez and you look at these teams that are, just sucking eggs, like at least give the opportunity to like Mazatlan too, man. Those teams, if it wasn't for the closed system, right now they'd be playing in second division.
Yeah, yeah, they'll be
So
gone.
I do think it's
But
unfair that you have a team that's hot and then they don't even have the chance to see if they'd be good enough to stay in Liga MX. And you have other teams that like they're just not even trying. They're not investing enough money into the team, and they don't have any consequences because of that. I think they do get fined if I'm not mistaken, and I think that money goes to the winner of the
yeah,
league. Yeah,
I think what you need is to do a whole restructuring of the leagues. Um, and it's the league, Mexico, the league is hijacked by the club owners because that at one point, so by the league, I should say, like the Mexican Football Federation that governs the leagues. And at one point, so they go into votes, and it's like the different divisions. So you had amateur sector, you had like third division, second division, first, and then they all have like they would pull in votes. And at one point, I believe amateur sector was like they had the most votes, but soccer and became professionalized. You had these big companies coming in, and they're like, "Hey, we're the ones putting in money." They just like took away the whole votes, and first division now decided what happened. I do think the federation should have remained independent, perhaps not with amateur sector controlling it, but independent from the club owners. And but it's too late for that now. So you have these club owners that sort of hijacked it, and that's why we haven't. Why the league's been always so split, you know, at odds with each other all the time. Um, but I think in order to have like a good pro relegation, you would need to have a better second division. And
yeah,
Mex just they never invested to improve that because I do think Mexico can have a good second division, but they would need to put money and promote it and get TV contract and all that, so that the competition there is pretty good. I think the opposite has happened in Mexico with the media, sort of like demonized it, made second division seem chafa and suck and all that. They did the same with the Copa MX, sort of like turn it into whatever cup. And I think that's been one of the downfalls Mexican soccer, man. The own media destroys what we have. I don't think they should be doing the opposite, promoting it and trying to make it better. Um, they sort of exaggerate it in South America, You see Argentine soccer, every game's a clásico.
yeah. They hype it up.
Pretty much every match is a clásico, man. And you never really had that in Mex. They never really hyped up rivalries.
I was I
Then
was I
they
was
came up with some dumbass names. What?
I was watching
You?
one of my favorite like soccer series on Netflix. It's Sunderland Till We Die. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen it, and they get relegated. They got this cool like Netflix crew like following them around because they think that they're gonna get. They got relegated from the Premier League, so they're in the Championship, which is the second league division in England.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh yeah, you can film us, and we're gonna go back right back up to Premier. And then what ends up happening is they end up getting relegated again. So now they're in the third tier in England, and dude, they're talking about these matches like they're playing against Middlesbrough, like they call them Borough, and they're like,
Yeah.
and they're like interviewing the fans, and they're talking on the radio, and they're like, "This is a massive, massive match, absolutely massive." It's like, dude, they're like hyping this up, bro, and it's like, bro, this is third division football, and they're
Yeah.
so into it, and it's just like, why can't we have that here, man? Why do we gotta like
we
shit
just
talk everything?
we had it, Jaime. We destroyed it. We knocked it down ourselves. And a big reason, it's again that whole trying to do that whole system where the league, so the Mexico League owners, they wanted to do a league to emulate the U.S. leagues. You know, they saw kind of how the NFL and NBA and sort of how they did their leagues, which is what do we have? Liguilla, it's playoffs. That comes from here. You know, they said we want that. We want playoffs. What does Liga MX have? Mercado de piernas, pretty much a draft. So they copied stuff from here, and you know, at the same time, they sort of like did away with some of the tournaments and like second division and stuff. And I think those were things that would help Mexico,
Yeah.
because if you're playing these cups and you're hyping them up and they're great matches, which look we've seen how much like you see Copa MX and the fans will talk shit about it or make it seem whack. But then once their team gets to the final or win it, they're out celebrating like they just won
A la
a major
Minerva.
trophy. It's like, and but that's what it's about, man. It's one of the cool shit. Like if you're soccer, getting to see your team win something and celebrating, having those moments is what makes it more special and makes it more fun to watch the sport. And but I think again, the league and the journalists and all that sort of, they brought down like piñata style, man. They beat down a lot of the cool traditional stuff that was already in place, and so to try to like emulate, which a lot of fans ended up accepting. I think if you ask the average Liga MX fan, they love the liguilla system.
Oh yeah, it's entertaining. Absolutely entertaining. Way more entertaining than watching a team clinch the league with, 5, 6 games to spare. Which, like has its advantages and disadvantages. It will allow coaches have a longer leash. It will allow them to experiment with young players because, you have 34 matches to get results instead of 17. So I understand the advantages and disadvantages, but I feel like with Mexico, it's always like what can make us the most money. They're very short sighted with with their
Yeah.
planning. It's all about what they can get now and not really thinking about long term or the
Well,
big picture.
yeah.
Like
Well, that's
like
that's what you're
Germany,
saying. They
man.
got greedy.
Yeah. Like Germany
Well,
has
just
like
really
a
quick, really quick,
yeah.
Jaime. Just really quick. The whole liguilla thing when you say quick, and that's cutting the liguilla in half, not the liguilla, the season in half, and it's like, all right, this team is champion, and then like what is it, 3 weeks later, the league starts again, and it's gonna be another shot. It's another team to be a champion.
And usually the champion, the current champion just says, "All right, we did enough." They don't even
Yes,
qualify for
but
the next season. It's crazy.
Germany, Jaime, you were
Oh, I
you
was
were
just saying,
saying,
like, they had a goal to win the World Cup, and it's a project that takes a very, very long time, but they got it done. But you can see the work, you can see the effort that was like what they had to do to get there, and it's like, I think they have one of the most successful leagues in the world, financially for sure. And I was watching like Bayern Munich. They also have like a series on Amazon Prime, and they said that they haven't been in the black since like the 80s. Like
damn,
they've never like been broke since like that long ago. And they
isn't
said
that
that
in the red, Jaime?
or whatever, red, black, whatever the case may be, but uh one of the players on the team, they're actually like this is when they were like running out of money. He was just like, "Hey man, just like sell me to Milan." and they did, and they sold him to AC Milan, and with that money, they were able to get back in the green. And they said since that day, like, yeah, they've never been in the red ever since. I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, and like you mentioned Germany, and that's one of the things they're looking to start Liguilla because it's pretty much Bayern winning every season. So it's like, how can we get teams to have a shot? And so they look Liguilla, and I'm guessing they're gonna do long season format followed by Liguilla.
I mean, they already have a domestic cup tournament where it does give the other
Yeah,
guys a chance, and we saw like was it Salcedo and Fabian? They both won it. Be- They
I
beat
think they
Bayern
won the
Munich.
league.
No,
I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure they won.
Fabian was champion
The,
with Frankfurt, but it was like the douche pokal. It wasn't the league.
no, I think Pavel Pardo and
Oh
them
yeah,
won the.
oh yeah, he won the
Yeah,
league.
no, but they won like a playoff system, and I'm guessing they would do Liguilla, but I think they would do long season format. So home and away followed by Liguilla. I mean, home and home is home and away.
For sure. Well, we're over the hour mark on episode 328. Do you have any closing thoughts, any predictions for Mexico Salvador on Wednesday?
I think they're gonna have like a 3-0 win, but they're not going to convince or convert the naysayers. And I think there's a good possibility that Tata will be, you know, he'll be asked to leave. He could, because we have this whole thing with his health. He could probably just say that he's stepping down because of that, kind of save him face. He leaves out the front door. But I do feel there's a possibility that he gets asked to leave. I think Mexico as a brand, we said, it's pretty makes good money here in the U.S. And you have a couple months until the World Cup. You could sell out a few stadiums in Molero tours if they, rebuild the hype train, put Piojo, bring back Chicha and whatever, and people start. Dude, for these friendlies, it's insane what they pay for to see like a friendly match. Like
Yeah.
they'll pay up to $300, $500 tickets. But hey, man, people have the money for that, and that's the thing, it's not just a selección; it's a brand, so it needs to sell. It sells products, sells T-shirts. You need to sell the new camisa and whatnot, and that's part of it. You need to be pretty hyped up, create that excitement, and so you could sell all of these things that it's attached to. Plus, who knows if there's still like other sponsors they might get once the team qualifies, that there could be sponsors so like, all right, we'll chip in now, and now it's like more money. So it's a business. That's kind of how we have to see it a lot of times, because it kind of is, business first, sports second.
I had a look at Tata's numbers. He's had 51 matches with Mexico, and I'm looking at Juan Carlos Osorio's numbers at with Mexico. He had 52 matches, so Tata's one match away from matching Osorio. Osorio's numbers was 33 wins, 9 draws, 10 defeats, and Tata's already surpassed him with 36 wins, 8 draws, 7 losses. So he's already outperformed Juan Carlos Osorio, although it might not seem like he has. But you know what, man? We've made it this far. Yeah, it's unconvincing. Yeah, it's ugly. Yeah, we're bitching and moaning all the way to the World Cup, but we've already made it this far. You know what? Let him finish the job, man. I'm not convinced that another coach can come in at the 11th hour and change the course of our history. I think that Mexico will
You
go to
know,
the World Cup. They're probably going to get out of the group stage, and they're probably going to lose in the round of 16 like they always done. And I don't
well, you
care.
have
I
to.
don't care who you can acquire in that time span. I don't care if like you get Jose Mourinho, Zidane. I don't care if you
Yeah,
get
Bielsa's
Guardiola.
available.
There's no way. There's no way this team's gonna get because at this point it's not even a coaching thing. It's a player thing, man. We just don't
It
have
is. That is
we
true.
don't have the depth.
That is.
We don't have the players that can change any. I don't see. I'm looking at our roster. There is no one in there that I'm thinking, oh yeah, maybe we can. No way, bro. There's no way.
You have fans. You have fans calling for an under 23
We
player
want Marcelo
that
Flores.
he hasn't even no first team minutes, just youth.
Hasn't
You
made
want
his
him to go
professional
from
debut yet.
youth to World Cup. Somehow, I don't know how that equates from playing youth games and now at the World Cup, he's gonna light it up. I don't, but he can't light it up in the first. I don't know, man. I don't know how you guys formulate that stuff. But yeah, that shows the desperation behind that. It's like, you know, any dude that shows a crumb of talent, they're like, bring him in, bring him in.
He's like, wait, does he
Um,
does he play in Europe? Does he have Mexican
and,
citizenship?
but,
Oh, we got it. That he's the next one.
well, and on the other hand, because of this lack of talent, there is a strong push to bring him in to take him to the World Cup, to take Flores to the World Cup because
Ridiculous.
well, no, because it's because of the lack of talent, and there's that fear that they could lose him to Canada.
Canada.
Because, dude, if you're okay, so you're Canada, right? And you're building up your program, and there's this talented kid to top it off, dude. He's Mexican, right? Which at least in this part of the world, is money. You know what I mean? Um, they could tell him, dude, we'll guarantee you 2 World Cups. What's up? You, you know, we'll take you to Qatar, and then you're in line for the. We're gonna be at home, and he could be like, snap, that could be good for my career, and
Yeah.
Mex could be like,
I mean, that's basically what
but
happened with Pepe.
yeah, it's it's true, and that was the whole thing, and but I've heard that the Mex FMF has been keeping up with him. They've been in constant talks, and so I'm guessing that's why I'm guessing they might
He's getting called
bring
up for
him
the
in.
U20, bro. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, I still think there's that possibility, and I do think that they're gonna, if they value him that highly, they could bring him in. A lot of times, the 23rd player doesn't really get playing time. I'm not saying he
Yeah, but
might
it would
just
be
go
it
and
would
not.
be disrespectful to anyone that's actually playing first division football to call up a kid
Well,
just because of marketing.
it might be, but what I said earlier, Jaime, business first, sports second,
I would
and
say if they
there's not that
wanted,
much talent going around.
yeah,
We don't have that many players lining up saying like, "Hey,
I I I think I
next
think
at
I
bat."
think I think Tata just put his foot down and said no. No, because
With
I remember at that game in Austin when I went to go capture that game, Mexico Chile, and they called up Marcelo Flores, and the fans were screaming his name, and after the game they were pressing him really hard, like, hey, like, why didn't you give Marcelo like more minutes, like, what's wrong with you? And Tata's like, hey man, we gotta slow this down, man, like, this guy's like 18 years old, and like, you know there's a process involved. So I thought it was very interesting, like, damn, like, who's actually like calling the shots right now, like, who's in charge? Because yeah, if you're the federation, you're definitely gonna you're already looking at the next crop of, like, young talent. Chicharito's out the door, Chucky and all them, like, those guys are like, they're not, the next thing right now. So Marcelo Flores, there's a lot of marketing involved. I can see why or how he would end up getting called up, but I just think there's no way, bro. He's too young, and he's playing for the under 23. Like he's not even playing for Arsenal first team. So yeah,
Yeah, there you go, Jaime. This my closing thought would just be on the whole. It will be back on Italy. Just this whole send players to Europe because that'll make them better. Does Does Italy need to send their players to Europe, Jaime?
they need to send their
What's
players to
how does
Mexico.
how does this work? How does this
They
work?
need to send their players
You
abroad.
you already said it. They haven't made it past the first round since what 2010, 2006, I think.
2006.
Missed two World Cups in a row already. Uh, and I'm not ragging on Italy. I still think they're one of the most talented, one of the best national teams in the world. But this whole just because you're in Europe, you're gonna be better thing. It's not how we make it out to be. You know, um, when we just saw here with this kid, Boston Pulisic. He didn't go to Ajax to train for 2 years. He just plays Liga MX, man. He marked him like he would mark anyone from Puebla or Querétaro. And he took him out. And if we see a lot of games, you'll see many examples like that. Gallito's one of my favorites, man. Gallito midfield 2014 World Cup, Modric, Rakitic. Dude, Don Gallo was like, this is my house. He just he owned, and we have a lot of examples like that. So I I, I think people need to like slow down there a bit with the whole send him as soon as they see a player do something half good, send him to Europe or his career is doomed type of thing.
Yeah. Uh, I'll leave everybody with this quote by Ronaldinho. He said, "The Mexican player has great potential in Mexico, great condition. They don't need to leave. Here in Brazil, we leave because of necessity. But if we had the opportunity to stay in Brazil, I swear to you, nobody would leave Brazil." So Ronaldinho,
It's
he's given Mexico credit. He sees the
yeah.
talent.
Well, I mean, and it's the same for Argentina. A lot of those guys will not leave if the money was there. But Ronaldinho, because he's been at the losing end a few times. But Brazil has seen Mexico beat them 3 times already for, Confederaciones, Olympic, gold, and two Gold Cups. Um, and with squads they were Mexican based.
Domestic base, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's what I. Correct, sir. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying don't go abroad. I'm just saying it's not you know, just because you win, that all of a sudden, your shit doesn't smell and you went up 20 points in power or whatever. You, you either if you're good, you're good. It don't matter where you're at.
Yep. Alrighty, folks. Want to thank everyone for hopping on tonight's. Uh, Alexa said, que juegan en la CPL los italianos, the Canadian Premier League. And she said, Pele never went to Europe. That's
Oh
true.
no.
But want to thank everyone for hopping on tonight. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and yeah, check out the photos that I took. Soccerchronicle.com. It's in chronological order. You can see the Chivas Leon friendly photos, and also in case you didn't see it, the friendly from back in December between Mexico and Chile in Austin. I have a lot of photos of Marcelo Flores and Acevedo and all these players that the next generation of the Mexican national team. But we'll catch you guys in the next one. Hopefully, by our next episode, Mexico will be qualified to Qatar.